Remember when the worst part of TV was losing the remote? Now imagine your emergency response team juggling 6 screens across 3 keyboards, trying to lock down a building during an emergency. On this next episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety, we're going to show you how 911inform has become public safety's universal remote, simplifying the chaos with one simple interface, controlling the entire scenario. Tune in and learn how command and control can really work. That's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm an ENP and the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911inform. 3 times each week, I bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes a bit controversial takes on emergency communications. Today, we're going to jump into how 911inform became public safety's universal remote, and why your keyboard might be a bit jealous. Ah, the good old days, when changing the channel meant walking across the room. That's right, kids. Way before Alexa and streaming apps, we had dials. Manual, rotating, clicky dials. Then along came the clicker, the remote. Those days were glorious. Suddenly you could sit on your couch and rule the entire living room with a simple flick of a button. Volume, mute, VCR, stereo, cable box, everything had their own remote until your living room table started looking like the clearance bin at Radio Shack, if you remember what that was. But eventually that mess gave birth to the holy grail of couch control, the universal remote. One device to control everything, and so big and bulky you couldn't lose it if you tried. Fast forward into public safety dispatch centers, and it's almost like we never left that mess. One application for building cameras, another for access control, another for location data, and yet another for floor plans. Each one running its own interface on its own screen, and many needing their own keyboard and mouse. It was like playing piano with your elbows during a serious event. Enter 911inform, public safety's universal remote. From the very beginning, we asked, what if we pulled all the critical data into one interface for public safety dispatchers? So we did. During an enterprise-level event, we built a command and control dashboard that was a single pane of glass web interface, decluttered, customizable, and accessible from a desktop, a tablet, phone, or even an MDT. Easily accessed without a big bloated client that required installation. Just point, click, and take action. Need to lock down a building? Done. Need to lock down every school in a district during a potential swatting event? Also done. In seconds. With no phone calls, no panic texts, just a calm, intentional decision with real-world action immediately. You see, public safety dispatchers shouldn't have to be an octopus to respond quickly. Now, big shout out to the agencies and school districts that are proactively deploying anything, because awareness matters. Last week's swatting event in Georgia was a grim reminder that this is not a hypothetical risk. It's real, and it's urgent. At 911inform, we're not just here to wow you with the latest flashy gadgets and ignore the broader problem. We want to provide public safety control. Control the big picture and the tiniest details. And we built the solution that way because lives depend on it. That's it for today's episode of TiPS, Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. For more updates and insights, remember to follow me on most social media platforms at Fletch911. And remember, you can visit 911tips.com for a complete archive of our previous episodes. Stay safe, thanks for listening, and if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every day. This is Fletch. I'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. That's 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG 911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good. TiPS is brought to you by 911inform, the leading next-generation 911 solution for enterprise compliance with federal 911 regulations. Visit them on the web at 911inform.com. 911inform, making every second count when it matters the most.